Off-season, a mix of work and pleasure, and it's a time when a lot of teams do their business to get better for next year, of course. Keith Costas doing the business of the St. Louis Cardinals this winter.
Yeah, we'll ease back in, guys, after the holiday with one right in my wheelhouse with the Birds here. I don't want to do too much work too early in the week here, but we'll start with the Cardinals, their off-season outlook here. Obviously, we could have thrown pitching on here for just about any team. I do think the Cardinals would do well to maybe get a little bit more pitching depth, but for now, we'll focus on these three areas. Replacing a legend behind the plate is obviously going to be a huge thing for the Cardinals after basically 2 straight decades with the future Hall of Famer Yadier Molina. What do they do at shortstop? Tommy Edman took over there, played well defensively as he does seemingly anywhere on the field last year. Paul DeJong still under contract in the last year of that extension that he signed a couple years back. And then, Bill, we hit on it earlier, and we're doing a little free agent shopping, stabilizing that outfield situation. It wasn't awful last year, but the best outfield group in the majors the previous year, remember they went on that winning streak in September of 2021 that was driven mostly by these three guys you see on the screen. Fast forward a year, Tyler O'Neill, marred by injuries, had nowhere near the season he did the year before. Harrison Bader obviously traded at the deadline, and Dylan Carlson, a bit of a sophomore slump. Still a league average hitter based on those numbers, but not quite what he was in his first full go-round with the Cardinals the year before. So when you talk about shortstop and outfield to me, guys, what's interesting about this is we know the Cardinals like to draft and develop, and that's what makes it sometimes hard to project what they're going to do in the offseason in terms of free agency. And shortstop and outfield are the positions where their top 2 prospects reside. These were their first and second round picks back in 2020, and they're both knocking on the door of the big leagues. Walker, one of the best prospects in the game at any position. Mason Wynn, a really dynamic player, stole a ton of bases, as you see there. If you watch the Futures game, you saw him throwing 100 miles an hour across the diamond, a former two-way player. So they have answers that are close at both of those positions. I think that they would probably do well to sign a shortstop if I had my preference, but always kind of hard to forecast what the Birds are going to do, like I said, because they're so good at solving their problems from within.
So, Keith, you're talking about in your wheelhouse. So, look, you got a guy at third. You got a guy at first as far as a lot of money is concerned. Can they really dip their toe in the water at shortstop if they had to?
Well, I think they can with Molina coming off the books, with some of those contracts coming off the books. Wainwright's going to make a lot of money, and you know that's not going to be a long-term thing, although I wouldn't count him out pitching further beyond this year. I know that that's what people are thinking going in, but who knows? With the way Wainwright's been recently, if he cranks it up and has a good season, maybe he changes his mind. So, yeah, I do think that they've got room to add a shortstop, but I think that the safe money is probably on them staying out of the deep waters in terms of that position.
So does that include at catcher? Because if they wanted to write the check for Wilson Contreras, they could, and people have talked about that potential connection. Or do they just draft or rather sign a backup catcher and commit to Andrew Kisner full-time?
Yeah, I mean, I like both of the catchers that they have. I don't think Kisner's a full-time catcher, more of a backup to me. They've got Ivan Herrera coming in the minor leagues, who is one of their top prospects as well, not quite as ready. Contreras, the obvious answer, is a free agent, but a lot of intriguing trade possibilities out there for catcher, too. Maybe Sean Murphy's a name that's been bandied about. The Blue Jays have 2 catchers that they could parlay in a deal if they found a partner they like. The Cardinals have been rumored to be one of those teams, too. So I think catcher's the one that you're going to obviously add from the outside, but it'll be interesting to keep an eye on those other 2 positions as well.